How's it going, everybody? Lampini here, and today we are going to be reviewing Week 6 of the 2025 NFL season. So Week 5 was definitely a very interesting week for the NFL. There were a lot of upsets, and it reflects in my predictions. So if we go ahead and look at it, I was actually 6-8 with my predictions. I actually got a couple games wrong. The Rams went for it on fourth down, which caused them to lose it to the 49ers. The Texans crushed the Ravens. That surprised me. The Saints beat the Giants. The Broncos upset the Eagles. The one time I actually root for the Eagles, the upset actually happens. So there goes my thing. The Titans, the Cardinals lost to the Titans. The Titans didn't really win. One of the biggest choke jobs I've ever seen. Pleasantly, the Commanders beat the Chargers. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about the Commanders. The Patriots beat the Bills, and the Jaguars upset the Chiefs. So, it was not a very good week for predictions, but a lot of upsets, so I don't really know. For the season, I am 49, 28, and 1. So I'm still doing pretty good with my predictions. I've guessed 21 more games right than I've guessed wrong. Hopefully I can turn it around this week with my predictions. So let's jump right into it. So for our Thursday night game, we have the Philadelphia Eagles at the New York Giants. So the Eagles lost their first game. They lost to the Broncos. And I think that this was a big win for the Broncos. They have had some bad luck with like a lot of their games. They're a lot better than their 2-2 record says. So I'm not really too surprised that they beat them. The Eagles had this one in the bag though. The Broncos came back and they scored 18 unanswered points. I actually watched that game while after the Ravens game had happened. The channel I was watching switched coverage. And what I remember is the Broncos going up. They were down 2 scores, and they just went right down the field 2 times and just scored and took the lead. There was very little resistance by the Eagles. This is what I'm saying about the Eagles looking beatable. Like, they won 2 very close games, and this is another close game that they just didn't win. So they're very beatable. But that being said, they are still 4-1, and they're still one of the better teams in the league. They're going to beat the Giants. I'm just going to go with it right now. As for the Giants, it was fun while it lasted when they beat the Chargers, but they had 2 great starting drives and then proceeded to commit 6 straight fumbles, 6 straight turnovers. One of them was a fumble return touchdown. It was just brutal. One of them, Jackson Dart, just dropped the ball. He was running and the ball just slipped out of his hands. You really can't make this stuff up. I don't know what it is or why it is, but both New York teams are just pitiful. The Jets are the only winless team in the NFL right now, and the Giants don't look much better. It's really, really crazy. So, yeah, they had 6 straight turnovers to the Saints. The Saints didn't even do a whole lot since then. They scored 2 field goals and missed a field goal. So, the game was pretty much over by the second quarter. The Giants couldn't score anything. They kept turning the ball over, and the Saints scored an additional, 10 points off of 2 field goals and a fumble return touchdown. It was just it was terrible. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Eagles. They're going to win Thursday. Even though it's at home, this would be a really, really bad loss for the Eagles if they manage to lose this one. But I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that they are too good of a team to lose to such a bad team like the Giants. I'm going with the Eagles. Next up, we have the Denver Broncos at the New York Jets. This is a London game. I think it seems like they're going to have London games every single week nowadays. But great win for the Broncos. They're now 3-2. Like I said, the Broncos have had some bad luck with, how they barely lost out to the Colts. They had a good game against the Chargers that they fell short on. They're a lot better than their 2-2 record says. And like I always said with them, they're one of these fringe playoff teams. Like, they made the playoffs last year, and I think they're going to build up on that momentum. Bo Nix was 24-39 for 242 yards and a touchdown, and 87.8 passer rating. Pretty standard average game for him. And then J.K. Dobbins had 20 carries off of 79 yards off of 20 carries for a touchdown. He averaged 4 yards a carry. So this is kind of the game that the Broncos needed last week against the Eagles. They played very hard, and they were able to cause the upset. It was a very, very good showing. As for the Jets, they lost to the Cowboys 37-22. That score is very deceptive considering that the Jets scored 16 points in the fourth quarter in garbage time. So it really was it was 30-6 at one point in time, and I saw a stat saying the Jets are the first team in NFL history to go 0-5 and have 0 takeaways by their defense. It really is brutal stuff. The Jets are supposed to be a defensive-centric team, so why is their defense so bad? Justin Fields is still playing well, even though he was sacked 5 times. He threw 2 touchdowns in garbage time. I don't know, he's still doing all right. He's not the problem. I think it's like the defense that's the problem. I think it's just the Jets team as a whole. It's the same thing with the Giants. I don't know how these New York teams are so bad, but they're terrible. And this is another typical Jets season. Like 2 years ago when Aaron Rodgers got injured, that was a typical Jets season because of the bad luck. The year after, they won 5 games with Aaron Rodgers, a Hall of Fame quarterback, typical Jets season. It just keeps getting worse for the Jets. They have not made the playoffs since 2010. They haven't had a winning season since 2015. Like, I don't know how a professional NFL franchise in the biggest media market in the country, no less, New York, can be so bad. I don't know, but I'm gonna go with the Broncos. They're gonna win. I think it's gonna be a miracle if the Jets even win a game. They were competitive for a couple of these games early on, but I don't think that's gonna happen with the Broncos. Sean Payton's too good of a head coach, and they're not gonna drop to the Jets. So I'm going with the Broncos. Next up, we have the Cleveland Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are 3-1. They're coming off of a bye where they beat the Vikings in Ireland. And they did pretty well. Aaron Rodgers was 18 of 22 for 200 yards and a touchdown, 119.7 passer rating. Good showing there by Aaron Rodgers. Kenneth Gainwell, 19 carries for 99 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, so that was a good showing. And then DK Metcalf, 5 receptions for 126 yards and a touchdown. 80 of those yards came off of a long pass by Aaron Rodgers that DK Metcalf took to the house. It was an impressive showing by the Steelers. They're kind of playing a lot like they did last year, where they start the season very, very strong. It's just going to be a matter of if they can get it done down the stretch as well. Aaron Rodgers is playing very, very well. Like I said, he's playing well. And, they look strong. And this division really is theirs to win because the Ravens fell to 1-4. The Browns are the Browns, and the Bengals are the Bengals. Like, you may be looking at one probably the worst division in football right now, if I had to guess. So that division is the Steelers to lose, basically. When the Ravens get Lamar back, and I think after they come off the bye, I think they're going to start turning things around a little bit. But we'll wait and see what happens. As for the Browns, Dylan Gabriel got his first start, and ironically, the Browns also lost to the Vikings, 21-17. The Browns had a chance to win this game. It was very close for most of it, but again, they just fell short in the fourth quarter. Some bad coaching decisions, but Dylan Gabriel did pretty good. He was 19 of 33 for 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 94.3 passer rating. So he did well. And, this is why people are like, oh, why isn't Shedeur Sanders playing this and that? I mean, Dylan Gabriel, they drafted Dylan Gabriel before Shedeur Sanders. And Shedeur Sanders is doing himself no favors by, miming words to people. I don't know. He's being very weird. But I am going to go with the Steelers on this one. I know that it's a divisional round matchup. You never know what's going to happen. But it's at home. It's hard to beat the Steelers at home. The Steelers are going to want to improve to 4-1. They're going to want to improve their divisional lead over all these other teams. So I'm going to go with the Steelers on this one. These are games that they need to win. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Chargers at the Miami Dolphins. Both teams looked strong. They looked like they were going to win, and then they both choked the game away. We're going to talk about the Chargers first, since I've watched that game. The Chargers were killing us, lack of a better term, to kick things off. They were running through our defense, and I thought this was going to be a repeat of the Falcons game because our defense couldn't stop anything. They ran right down the field, and we stopped them, but then there was a penalty on the field goal that gave them an automatic first down that they then scored a touchdown on. Then they drove down the field again, and they kicked the field goal. We were able to stop them, 10-0. And then they drove down the field again, and they were ready to make it 17-0. But fortunately, I think it was Quan Martin punched the ball out, and we managed to recover the fumble. But that didn't really do much for us because we then punted the ball away, and Ladd McConkey ran that punt back for a touchdown, but it was roughing the kicker, so we got the ball back, and then, we managed to tie it up at the half. So that's kind of a recap of what happened. But ever since that fumble, the Chargers weren't able to recover. And that's kind of concerning to me, though, how much momentum swung into our favor. The Chargers were doing very, very well to kick things off, and it looked like they were going to cruise to an easy victory, and then they just lost it, which I thought was very, very concerning coming from home, especially after a bad loss against the Giants. Justin Herbert was 22 of 29, 166 yards, a touchdown, and interception, and 86.3 passer rating. The interception wasn't really his fault. It got tipped, and Mike Sainristil made a great play to catch the interception. Justin Herbert played a great game. He rushed for a lot. He had a 40-yard run at some point. So Justin Herbert is still going to keep the Chargers in games. But, with Jim Harbaugh as their coach, you would think that the Chargers losing culture would kind of fix itself. Hasn't really done that. The Chargers had a big chance to establish a significant lead in their division, and it just hasn't been happening that way. So, I don't know. As for the Dolphins, everyone is saying that Mike McDaniel may be coaching his last season here. Tua Tagovailoa actually had a pretty good game, one of the best games he's ever had, actually. 27 to 36, 256 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks, 122 passer rating. So that was very surprising by Tua that he did well, but they still lost out to the Panthers. The Panthers scored 14 points in the fourth quarter that allowed them to win this game. They were comfortably in the lead, and I was over here being like, damn, I shouldn't have picked the Panthers, I should have picked the Dolphins. I'm gonna lose another prediction. But thankfully the Panthers came in clutch and they helped me out, and I was spared another loss on my record this week. I'm gonna go with the Chargers though. They are going cross country, but I just don't think the Dolphins are a good enough team to cause the upset. And the Chargers desperately need this game after dropping 2 straight so they can improve to 4-2. They're in the lead for that division. The Chiefs, spoiler, might go 2-4, and the Broncos are hot on their tail, so they really need to win this game. So I'm going with the Chargers. Next up, we have the New England Patriots at the New Orleans Saints. So the Patriots had a huge upset Sunday night where they beat the Buffalo Bills. Now, I know I went with the Bills, but I don't think there's that much to be concerned about if you're a Buffalo Bills fan. You're not going to go 16-0, and if you're going to lose to anyone, losing to a divisional rival, I think makes a bit more sense because you play that team twice a year. So you're not going to win them all for Buffalo. Well, we'll go into it a little bit later when I go over the Bills, but this is a very, very good showing here by the Patriots. The coaching has improved. Drake May has really, really came into his own. He was 22 of 30 for 273 yards and a 101.1 passer rating. So that was really good as well. They look really, really good, so to speak. And the Saints are the Saints. They did beat the Giants. They beat a really bad team, but, it's the Giants. It doesn't really say much about the Saints. They weren't going to go winless. They won against a really, really bad team, so I can't seem really surprised about that. I'm going to go with the Patriots. I think they're going to win, and they're going to improve to 4-2. They have been looking really, really strong, and I said that their ceiling was going to be a wild card berth, and I think that's the trajectory that they're on. So I'm going with the Patriots. So this next game, we have the Los Angeles Rams at the Baltimore Ravens. Both of these teams are coming off of losses, but one was a lot worse than the other. The Ravens lost to the Texans 44-10. I saw some crazy stat that the top 7 paid players on the Ravens are injured. So they're a very, very injured team. So I don't know how much we can really judge the Ravens on their season coming apart because they've been struck by the injury bug. That being said, 1-4 is still 1-4. And when Lamar comes back, and this is their last game for the bye, by the way. And spoiler, I think they're going to go 1-5. I think the Rams are going to win. I've said it many times. The Rams are one of the best teams in the NFL, I think. They went for it on 4th down to beat the 49ers, and they fell short. It was the wrong move on their part. So they ended up losing that game, and they're now 3-2. Matt Stafford had a great game, though. He was 30 of 47, 389 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 111 passer rating. Matt Stafford's low-key playing at an MVP caliber record. He's playing phenomenal. As for, again, the Ravens, like I said, they're 1-4, and their defense is just abysmal. I know they don't have a lot of their star players, but you can't have a struggling Texans offense look that good. The Ravens definitely have the worst defense in the league. In fact, right here are their statistics. So I haven't looked at it, but I'm guessing they're 32nd in points and yards. We'll see what the actual statistics say, but the Ravens defense has never looked this bad, and things have never looked this bad for the Ravens, period. I haven't seen the Ravens start a season this bad in probably my whole lifetime. Yes, I know they're injured. Yes, I know Lamar is out. They're going to fall to 1-5, unfortunately. And when the bye comes back, when they come back from the bye, Lamar should be back. A lot of their players should be back as well. And then it becomes, okay, now we got to dig ourselves out of this hole. Can they make it to 10-7 or 9-8 and squeak into the playoffs? Yes, I think they can. But, 9-8's a bit pushing it. But if they can make it to 10-7 and sneak in with a wild card spot, we all know what the Ravens can do. But, they can't get done in the playoffs. Maybe this is what they needed. They needed some adversity in the regular season to then do well in the postseason. I don't know. I'm going with the Rams, though. The Ravens look like a bottom 5 team right now through no fault of their own because they're injured. but they look terrible. The Rams are going to look to bounce back off the disappointing loss against the 49ers. They're going to win. Next up, we have the Arizona Cardinals at the Indianapolis Colts. This is the Edgerrin James game because Edgerrin James played for both these teams. The Colts have further established that they are one of the best teams in the NFL. They beat the Raiders 40-6. We dropped a 40 burger on the Raiders, and the Colts are doing the same thing. Daniel Jones was 20 of 29 for 212 yards and 2 touchdowns, 113 passer rating. Great showing by Daniel Jones. And then Jonathan Taylor, 66 yards off of 17 carries, but 3 rushing touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor is having one of the best running back seasons in the NFL right now. He's up there with Travis Etienne, probably. Travis Etienne's having a good year. A lot of the established guys like Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley aren't having very good seasons. Derrick Henry isn't because the Ravens are a literal mess and they just stacked the box against him. I watched the game and that's what happened. Derrick Henry had no room to run. But yeah, the Colts look like the real deal. And I'd say they're a top 5 team right now. Yes, I know that they lost to the Rams, I think it was, but they're still 4-1 and they are in command of that division. Who would have thought that Daniel Jones was what the Colts were missing to be successful? Very strange, right? But that's how the NFL works. As for the Cardinals, we need to talk. The Cardinals had probably one of the worst collapses I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't know the running back's name, but he had a super long rushing touchdown, but it wasn't a rushing touchdown. He let go of the ball at the 1-yard line because he celebrated too early. How does this keep happening over and over again? How does this keep happening? It happened last week. It happened last year. Did nobody learn from Deshaun Jackson? Drop the ball when you're in the end zone. I don't know why it's so hard for him to do, but it happened that way. And then the Cardinals got an interception that they then fumbled away that the Titans then recovered in the end zone. Like, insane. And then all they had to do was stop a big play that would have put the Titans into field goal range, and they couldn't do that either. And Cam Ward threw a great pass to Calvin Ridley that got them into field goal range. The Titans kicked a field goal, and they won their first game of the season. And the Cardinals lost. Absolutely insane. And this is why the Cardinals aren't going to amount to anything. They suck. They're terrible. All the 2 teams that they've beaten are 2 of the worst teams in the league, and they couldn't even beat the Tennessee Titans, who are the worst team in the league. I'm going with the Colts on this one. They're going to win at home. Like, it's just so, like, the Cardinals the last couple of years have always just been like, oh, we have Jonathan Gannon. Oh, they're going to rebuild. Oh, they're in their rebuild. They're fine. They're not fine. They're in mediocrity hell, just like the Commanders were before we got a new owner. Like, the Cardinals are just one of these teams that can never break through the glass ceiling. They're an example of a team that backs the wrong horse at their franchise position. Kyler Murray is their franchise quarterback, but I think he's a low-tier franchise quarterback. He is not a franchise. Well, he is their franchise quarterback, but he's a low-tier franchise quarterback. It's like how the Dolphins gave Tua Tagovailoa a big contract. They backed the wrong horse. They gave a second contract to a quarterback that didn't deserve it. And because of that, they are stuck in mediocrity hell. So I'm going with the Colts. They're going to win. Next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks at the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Seahawks are 3-2. The Jaguars are 4-1 after upsetting the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday night. They looked good. They played the Chiefs hard, and Trevor Lawrence really put the team on his back and had an incredible rushing touchdown at the end of the game where he gets tripped up by one of his offensive linemen, trips again, managed to get himself back up, break a couple tackles, and rush in for the score. Very, very impressive stuff there by Trevor Lawrence, who was 18 of 25, 221 yards, a touchdown and interception, and a 95.6 passer rating, one of his better games. And then he also rushed for 2 touchdowns as well. What a huge game by Trevor Lawrence. And they are 4-1. But the interesting thing is, the Colts are also 4-1. So isn't that interesting? As for the Seahawks, they lost out to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield with yet another game-winning drive. I was very concerned because when I was watching it, the Seahawks were actually in the lead for most of the game, and I thought, I'm getting another prediction wrong, right? But Sam Darnold was 28 of 34 for 341 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception for a 135.4 passer rating. That is an incredible game by Sam Darnold. He's found his home in Seattle. He still throws interceptions here and there, but he did very well. Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's making a case for one of the better wide receivers in the league right now. 8 receptions for 132 yards and a touchdown, so very impressive showing there by JSN. They just fell short as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a game-winning drive that allowed them to pull ahead and win. A win that the Buccaneers desperately needed. They're now 4-1. The Seahawks are now 3-2. I don't know who's going to win this game, to be honest. It's a big toss-up because I thought Jacksonville was kind of a bit of a fraud. They were kind of lucky to get to 3-1, but after they beat the Chiefs, I was like, no, they're the real deal. So I'm going to go with the Jaguars. I think they're going to beat the Seahawks. They're going to improve to 5-1. How about that? This season is full of surprises. I'm going with the Jaguars. Next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys at the Carolina Panthers. The Cowboys won. They beat the Jets 37-22. Once again, the Cowboys putting up 37 points. Their offense is firing on all cylinders, and that's because Dak Prescott is having a MVP caliber season. He was 18 of 29 for 237 yards and 4 touchdowns for 127.4 passer rating. Yes, it went against the Jets, but Dak Prescott's having a phenomenal season. This reminds me of 2 years ago when he had 36 touchdowns, led the league, and finished second in MVP voting. Dak can get the job done when he's healthy, which I think is why, he gets paid the big bucks. He's good. He's very good. He's not Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, or Patrick Mahomes, but he's like higher up there. I mean, he's showing it. He's doing a very, very good job. As for the Panthers, they managed to upset the Dolphins that come from behind victory. Bryce Young was 19 of 30 for 198 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception for a 90.7 passer rating, which was pretty good. But the real star of the show was Rico Dowdle. 23 carries for 206 yards and a rushing touchdown, averaged 9 yards a carry. That was an impressive showing there. 200 rushing yards. I think that's the highest statistic we've had all season. I'm going to go with the Cowboys, though. The Panthers' defense is still so bad, and the Cowboys' offense has been proven to be pretty unstoppable. And I don't see, despite the Cowboys' defense being pretty bad, I don't see the Panthers able to outscore a really, really strong Cowboys offense. So for that reason, I'm going with the Cowboys. So next up, we have the Tennessee Titans at the Las Vegas Raiders. This is the Tank Bowl to end all Tank Bowls, as both teams are 1-4, and both teams, for lack of a better term, suck. Now, the one thing that's really hurting the Raiders are turnovers. Geno Smith was 25 of 36 for 228 yards and 2 interceptions, a 63.2 passer rating. Geno has been an interception machine this year, and I don't know if it's the scheme or if he's washed or what it is, but Geno has had 3 good years under his belt in Seattle from 2022 to 2024, and we haven't seen this kind of stuff with him. So I'm kind of led to believe that it might be a scheme thing, but I don't know. He's not playing well at all. He's thrown the most interceptions in the league by a considerable margin. They didn't score any points against the Colts. They only scored 6 points. Very pitiful. And the Raiders had a plan going in that Geno Smith was going to be a nice, stable quarterback, and that Pete Carroll, Hall of Fame coach, was going to lead them to the promised land. And nothing could have been further from the truth. It's another lost season for the Raiders, and they suck. As for the Titans, they also suck, but they have their franchise quarterback at least, and they had a very good victory against the Cardinals. I'm actually going to go with the Titans on this one. This is going to be a test to see who the worst team in the league is, but the Raiders have just looked downright pitiful the last couple weeks. Downright pitiful. And the Titans have played some teams close. So I think for that reason, the Titans are going to do a little bit better, and I think they're going to win, and they're going to get their second win of the season. Next up, we have the San Francisco 49ers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers and 49ers both coming off of wins, and they're both 4-1. I think the Buccaneers are one of the best teams in the league, to be honest. They were a blocked field goal away from being 5-0. And another great showing by the Buccaneers offense as they scored 38 points in victory against the Seattle Seahawks. Baker Mayfield was 29 of 33, only had 4 incompletions, 379 yards, 2 touchdowns, 134.7 passer rating. Another great game by Baker Mayfield. He's having another all-time great season with the Buccaneers, just like he did last year. And then Emeka Egbuka, 7 receptions for 163 yards and a touchdown. Emeka Egbuka is making a huge case for Offensive Rookie of the Year. So that's very impressive by the Buccaneers as well. As for the 49ers, they beat the Rams off of another incredible showing by Mac Jones, who incidentally is a quarterback that Kyle Shanahan wanted to draft. It was between him and Trey Lance. And you can see why. Mac Jones was 33 of 49 for 342 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 100.9 passer rating. He was playing with a strained knee. He had a brace on, and he really fought through a lot of pain and managed to win them this game. Mac Jones is what I would call an elite system quarterback. And there's nothing wrong with being a system quarterback. I think that term gets a bad rap. A system quarterback is someone that can execute a coach's system and they're plug and play and they can make it work. You're talking about guys like Sam Darnold and Geno Smith, I thought, Daniel Jones, system quarterback. And then you have other guys that are the system. Like you have guys where like the coach has a great system like Kevin O'Connell or something, or like a good head coach has a good system like Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa being the system quarterback. And then you have guys that are the system. Like Patrick Mahomes is the system. Josh Allen is the system. Lamar Jackson is the system. You know what I mean? So, like Mac Jones is a system quarterback, but there's nothing wrong with that. He's won 2 games for them. And the 49ers are 4-1 despite being so riddled with injuries. And now it's like, well, if the 49ers are riddled with injuries and are still able to make things work, why can't the Ravens? Is it a coaching thing? Perhaps. But this is going to be a great game, and this is probably what I'm going to watch in the 4 p.m. slate. I'm going to go with the home team, though. The 49ers are coming cross-country. The Buccaneers are healthier, and they are a very, very strong team. And they've proven to be a top 5 team in this league right now, I think. And they're going to show it here against the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going with the Buccaneers. And don't be surprised. They could surprise a lot of people, the Buccaneers, and they can make a deep playoff run. I'm going with Tampa. Next up, we have the Cincinnati Bengals at the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are coming off of a bye where they played a 40-40 tie against the Dallas Cowboys. And the Bengals got thrashed by the Lions 37-24. Now, the Bengals scored 21 points in the 4th quarter in garbage time. So that means that it was 28-3 for most of the game, 27-3, 29-3. There we go, that's right. 29-3 for most of the game. They got crushed by the Lions. The score does not do it justice. I think that there's not been a team that has been ravaged by injuries more than the Bengals. And it's all because they lost one guy. They lost Joe Burrow. And he has been the difference maker for them. And now that he's gone, they got nothing else going for them. Jake Browning threw 3 touchdowns, but he threw 3 interceptions as well. I'm not going to dignify him with a graphic. But Jamar Chase, I will. 6 receptions, 110 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. He had a great game. I've got him on my fantasy team, so thanks for that, Jamar. But this is a lost season for the Bengals. And I know I say this all the time, but I'm going to say it again. They are 3 years removed from their back-to-back slate of going to the Super Bowl and the conference championship. I think it's time to just come to the conclusion that the Bengals are not this powerhouse team anymore. As for the Packers, what is interesting about the Packers is the first 2 games of the season, they looked great. They looked like one of the best teams in the NFC. They beat the Lions, and then they crushed us. They looked great. But since then, they lost to the Browns, and then they tied the Cowboys. So they've really fallen from grace these last couple games, and that's just, kind of a pitiful performance. Jordan Love had a good game against the Cowboys. It was more of a defensive problem. He was 31 of 43 for 337 yards, 3 touchdowns, 118.1 passer rating. So he had a great game. Josh Jacobs, 22 carries for 86 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Another good game there by Josh Jacobs. But they need to win this game, and it's the perfect get-right game for them coming off of a bye. The Bengals are one of the worst teams in the league. I think they're a bottom 5 team, despite what their record says, because they don't have Joe Burrow, and clearly Joe Burrow is the only thing that's keeping them afloat. I don't know. It's a freaking mess. It is a freaking mess that the Bengals have, and they're proving that they are nothing but a poverty franchise. Always have been, always will be. I'm going with the Packers. So next up, we have quite a doozy for the Sunday night game. We have the Detroit Lions at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Lions are 4-1. The Chiefs dropped to 2-3 after a tough loss to the Jaguars. Now, I will say this about the Chiefs. They really have righted the ship, and they did play well last week. They did. Oh, yesterday, rather. They did. And the Jacksonville Jaguars just barely did enough to win. So I think the Chiefs have returned to form. Their offense looked very broken in the first couple games, but I do think that they've gotten the hang of things again. Like, Mahomes played a lot better. He was 29 of 41 for 318 yards, a touchdown, a pick, and a 91.3 passer rating. Mahomes also rushed for 60 yards and a rushing touchdown. So, like, Mahomes is playing on all cylinders. And so is the team. Like, they're back to regular Chiefsdom. That being said, they are 2-3 now, and they're playing who I think is the best team in the league right now. I think the Lions are the best team in the league. They thrashed the Bengals. Jared Goff was 19 of 23 for 258 yards, 3 touchdowns, a 153 passer rating, so perfection there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8 receptions for 100 yards on the dot. Sam Laporta, 5 receptions, 92 yards and a touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs had a receiving touchdown. David Montgomery had a rushing touchdown. Their offense is just working on all cylinders right now, and they look like one of the best teams. They look like the best team in the league right now, just like last year. They've recovered very well from that playoff loss that they had against us, and they've reestablished themselves. We were worried about when they lost the Packers week 1, but they have reestablished themselves as one of the best teams in the entire league. So what do we do here? Who do we go for? Do we go for the home team in the Chiefs? It's entirely possible. I wouldn't say that the Chiefs winning this is like season saving for them. They can definitely dig their way out of a 2-4 hole because the Chiefs have made it through the wild card before, right? And I think 2023, they went 4-0, entered through the wild card, and then won the Super Bowl. We know the Chiefs are a great playoff team. All they need to do is make it to the playoffs, and then they work their magic, right? So I don't think that this loss is going to be catastrophic for them because they are playing a lot better. You know, they are playing like the Chiefs. But it's at home. They're coming off of a loss. Prime time. They need this win. The Lions just so good. I think I would go with the Chiefs easily. I'd go with the Chiefs easily if it was any other team. But I am going to go with the Lions. I think the Lions are the better team. And I think that they have a winning culture, and a team with a winning culture beats good teams. So I'm going with the Lions. I think they're going to win. Next up, we have the Buffalo Bills at the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons coming off of a bye are 2-2. The Bills coming off a loss are 4-1. Like I said, the Bills weren't going to go 17-0. You can't win them all. And I think that this wasn't an embarrassing loss by any means. The Patriots won on a last-second field goal. And the Bills still played well. Josh Allen was 22 of 31 for 253 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, and a 103.3 passer rating. So again, they did play well. The Patriots are a good team, and I think that it's less shame losing to a divisional opponent, a divisional rival, because like I said, with the Patriots, you play this team twice a year, every year. So these teams scheme specifically to beat you because you play them twice a year, right? So I'm not too surprised that the Bills lost, and I think they're going to be just fine. I do think they're going to bounce back and beat the Falcons, spoiler. But I will say this, the Falcons looked really, really good against us. They beat us 34-27, and Michael Penix had a phenomenal game. 20 of 26, 313 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, 126 passer rating. And then Bijan Robinson, 17 carries for 75 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Algier had a touchdown. Drake London, 8 receptions for 110 yards and a touchdown. And then Bijan Robinson, again, 4 receptions for 106 yards. He had a 69-yard reception with blown coverage where they gave Bobby Wagner Bijan Robinson. And Bobby Wagner's not a pass-defending linebacker. He's a run-stopping linebacker. And Bijan just ran right past him. It was brutal. But it was a good win, and it was a good bounce-back win from the Falcons, who got smoked against the Panthers the week prior. But this is going to be a good bounce-back game for the Bills. It's in prime time. The Bills are, I think, second to the Lions in terms of best team in the league. I think the best-case scenario Super Bowl matchup for me would be Bills versus Lions. I would love to see that. 2 fresh teams, 2 teams that haven't won a Super Bowl. Lions haven't even been to one, so you're watching history. I would love to see it go that way. We'll wait and see, though. You know, the Bills are going to have to get through. The Bills are going to have to get through the Chiefs first. You know, so we'll wait and see what happens. But I'm going to go with the Bills. I think they're going to win, and they're going to improve to 5-1. So, last but not least, we have the Chicago Bears at the Washington Commanders. So I'm going to need a bit of a breather here before I talk about the Washington Commanders. Apparently, by breather, it meant that my microphone was going to stop working, because at this very moment, my microphone just went dead. So you're not going to hear the rest of this prediction. What a time for that, considering it's the Washington Commanders review. I'm going to keep this one kind of brief so you don't have to stare at my face like that. But I am going with the Washington Commanders on this one. The Commanders looked like their old selves in the game against the Chargers last week. Jane Daniels controlled the ball really well. Deebo Samuel caught a touchdown. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt had his breakout performance. He rushed for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. As for the Bears, they did beat the they did beat the Raiders, but I mean they won on a last-second blocked field goal. And if they ended up losing to the Raiders, that would have been a huge, huge disappointment for them. I still haven't been very impressed with the Bears, despite the fact that they're 2-2. And coming at home on Monday, I know they're coming back from a bye. I think the Commanders have too much momentum, and I think Jane Daniels is going to be too good. So I am going with the Commanders on this one to improve to 4-2. That about finishes this up. Sorry, the video had to end this way. I will make sure that my microphone is working the entire time next time. I'll see you guys for week 7. Take care.